The September 11, 2001 attacks on the United States sent shockwaves across the globe. In the aftermath, President George W. Bush declared a war on terror, vowing to hunt down those responsible. The Bush administration quickly identified Saddam Hussein's regime in Iraq as a potential target. They argued that Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction and harbored ties to al-Qaeda. Despite skepticism from the international community, the U.S. launched a diplomatic offensive for military action. The United Nations Security Council remained divided, but the U.S., with the UK and other allies, bypassed the UN and invaded Iraq on March 20, 2003. This decision set in motion events with far-reaching consequences for the Middle East and the world. The invasion of Iraq began with a military campaign dubbed Shock and Awe. U.S.-led forces swiftly advanced into Iraq, capturing Baghdad within weeks. President Bush declared major combat operations over, but the war was far from finished. The occupation of Iraq proved more complex than anticipated. The collapse of Saddam's regime created a power vacuum, leading to instability and violence. The absence of weapons of mass destruction undermined the Bush administration's credibility. The failure to find these weapons fueled accusations of misleading the public. This credibility gap haunted the U.S. throughout the conflict, eroding public support. The initial victory euphoria was short-lived as Iraq descended into chaos. A potent insurgency emerged, fueled by resentment towards the U.S.-led occupation. Insurgent groups launched relentless violence against U.S. forces and Iraqi civilians. Roadside bombs and suicide attacks became daily realities. The U.S. military struggled to adapt to the insurgency's unconventional tactics. The Abu Ghraib prison scandal in 2004 sparked international outrage. Images of U.S. soldiers abusing Iraqi detainees fueled anti-American sentiment. The scandal tarnished the U.S. military's image and eroded public support for the war. The escalating violence made it difficult for the U.S.-led coalition to rebuild Iraq. Amidst the insurgency chaos, sectarian violence erupted. Iraq's diverse population, primarily Shiite and Sunni Muslims, faced heightened tensions. The collapse of Saddam's regime and disbanding of the Iraqi army created a power vacuum. Shiite militias sought revenge for years of oppression, while Sunni insurgents launched counterattacks. The violence escalated, pushing Iraq to the brink of civil war. Car bombs, mosque bombings, and death squads targeted people based on religious affiliation. Neighborhoods became segregated as families fled for safety. The U.S.-led coalition struggled to contain the violence and prevent civil war. By 2007, Iraq reached a critical juncture. President Bush announced the surge, deploying an additional 30,000 U.S. troops. The surge aimed to secure Baghdad and Anbar province, focusing on counterinsurgency tactics. U.S. forces moved into smaller outposts within Iraqi communities. The surge, combined with the Sunni awakening, led to a significant decrease in violence. By 2008, security improved dramatically in many parts of Iraq. The surge was a military success, but its long-term impact remained uncertain. The success depended on Iraq's political leaders forging a lasting settlement. In 2008, the U.S. and Iraq signed the Status of Forces Agreement, setting a timeline for U.S. troop withdrawal. The Obama administration adhered to the timeline, marking the end of a costly chapter. However, the withdrawal created a security vacuum with profound consequences. The Iraqi security forces, plagued by corruption and sectarianism, struggled to maintain order. Into this vacuum stepped ISIS, seizing control of vast territories. In 2014, ISIS captured Mosul, sending shockwaves through the region. The rise of ISIS underscored the fragility of the Iraqi state and the unintended consequences of the invasion. The U.S.-Iraq war left a legacy of instability, violence, and shattered lives. The war, launched to eliminate weapons of mass destruction, ironically contributed to the rise of new terrorist groups like ISIS. Thousands of U.S. soldiers sacrificed their lives, and many more returned with scars. The Iraqi people bore the brunt of the violence, with countless civilians killed and displaced. The war shaped U.S. foreign policy, highlighting the limits of American power. The legacy serves as a cautionary tale about the unintended consequences of military intervention. The lessons learned will continue to shape debates about international relations and the use of military force.